Okay,
Yes,
just a short
you're
idea.
right.
So Hanukkah, the one thing about the Hanukkah candles says we cannot get benefit from it besides looking at and admiring the flames of the candles, and just look. And it's good to actually look for a few, to like up to half a minute. It's good to look at the flames after you've lit the candles, and it obviously brings light into the darkness. And we are the Jewish people are special people, and there's so many amazing initiatives happening at this moment where people are doing chesed. I mean, especially for the soldiers and the people of Israel, people are taking food for soldiers and for people in need, to those who are vulnerable from attack, and bringing light into the darkness. And that's what Hanukkah is. I mean, as you know, it's been said thousands of times. You light a candle in the dark room, the whole room lights up. So people who do chesed, the light that's produced from that, the figurative light, is can't be measured. This creates a lot of light, or actually positivity. Light, I think, is actually can be light is a positive thing. So the positivity that is like the light of the Hanukkah candles that's been generated by a chesed of our brethren to our brethren in need. Yeah, I'll put myself.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so there's no one. You want me to give a bit of a drush then as well? Seeing that there's no interest on that side.
Can you hear me? I tell you what.
Yeah.
Kevin's going to just put his volume down, so we'll just be me. Okay. I'm still hearing me. Can you hear me now? Guys, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I'm hearing a bit, but it's not a problem. All right. Let me just see where we are. So there's Avimi Banazi, the father-in-law of Ravina, and he was owed 4 zuz by a certain man, and the debtor stole a cloak and brought it to Avimi. Okay, and Avimi lent him another 4 zuz. In the end, the thief was discovered. It was discovered by actually the debtor who had stolen the cloak. So I'm just going to repeat the case for you, just to see if you guys understand what's going on. Avimi Banazi, the father-in-law of Ravina, was owed 4 zuz by a certain man. So the debtor stole a cloak and brought it to Avimi, and Avimi lent him another 4 zuz. Okay, so what we are saying is here is the debtor wished to borrow another 4 zuz from Avimi, and Avimi didn't want to extend him any more credit. So the debtor therefore brought him a cloak as a pledge, and Avimi on that basis lent him another 4 zuz. However, if we look at it carefully, the borrower didn't say whether the cloak was a pledge for the first loan, which he hadn't yet repaid, by the way, or for both loans. We've got no clarity as far as that's concerned. Now, just so that you know, there's a case that when the thief is discovered, you generally don't pay. We want to know if there's the remedy of the marketplace. Now, just one thing, if you remember, that we don't generally deal with family, get involved with family paskening, because it's a bit of a it's a bit of a difficulty. But in this case, Ravina's father-in-law judged his son-in-law to be fair, and the other party did as well, and he didn't feel that there'd be any sort of nepotism. So in that particular case, he was selected as a judge by both parties, and they adhered to his ruling in adjudication. Okay, so Ravina was of the opinion, because we want to know, well, what exactly is the case. So Ravina said to him, look, with respect to the 4 zuz that came first, in the case of one who stolen and paid his debt, where the law is that the owner need not pay the lender anything. But with respect to the other 4 zuz, we apply the remedy of the marketplace, hence collect your 4 zuz from the owner and return the cloak to him. So all we are saying is that Ravina was of the opinion that the cloak was given as security for both loans. However, Avimi lent the first 4 zuz before the borrower submitted his pledge. So he was basing that first 4 zuz on trust, in which case the takanas hashuk, which is the remedy of the marketplace, doesn't apply, because one of the rules of the remedy of the marketplace is you have to have a specific item in mind that you're lending to in terms of collateral, Kevin, or alternatively, that you are purchasing a particular item in return for your money. If you're just saying broad base, you're lending somebody money, and on that basis, however they pay you security, it's fine. It means the trust is extended. It's not as if they offered the pledge or collateral first, and on that basis you lent the money. Because if it's for a specific amount that was pledged, like we said yesterday, there was 200 zuz, and people took that more seriously. Because if you wanted to borrow 100 zuz from me, I'd say you've got an asset for 100 zuz. Go get 100 zuz. What are you bothering me for? If you're giving me 200 zuz, I'm figuring right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it off from the person as a creditor. I'm going to hold it off from the debtor and say to him, unless you give me my 100 zuz, you'll lose 100 zuz on top of that, and it'll get the debtor to move much quicker for the creditor. So that's got power behind it. And according to obviously the opposite opinion with Rav Sheshes, he said a 1-for-1 is fine. And it's not really such an issue. Sometimes you overpay for things, because if money isn't an issue, but the item is quite rare, you will overpay for things. So that's not a problem. In this particular case, what we are saying, I'm sorry, I'm looking at Kevin, but I'm half giving it love to Kevin and half looking at you guys, and I can't multitask. So the issue is that there was no specificity in terms of the cloak that was brought. Was it in payment of the first amount given, or was it in order to secure the second loan? And what we are saying is, according to Ravina, he was saying, look, the first amount was given irrespective of whether there was collateral there. So therefore, you can't use that remedy of the marketplace when the creditor figures out the debtor paid him with the stolen good, because he never said, I'm lending you the money because you're giving me this collateral. He trusted him. It turned out not to be so good. The only thing, before I answer Kevin's question, is on the second amount, there was a remedy of the marketplace, because it's like you lending 40,000 Rand. Okay, it's like you lending, let's put it more realistically, 4,000 Rand. Okay, you do it with somebody, but then you don't want to breach yourself by lending another 4 grand because the oak hasn't paid you the first 4. So what do you do then? He comes to you with a laptop and says, listen, take the laptop, I need another 4. And you figure that laptop's an Apple Mac, it's worth 20, it's fine. You don't know he stole it. So therefore you're pledging and you're giving him another 4,000 Rand on the basis that he brought the lateral in order to extend further credit on the second loan. And Ravina said, so the remedy of the marketplace, as the creditor, I can get from Kevin to keep to his laptop because of that particular issue. Or let me put it as far as that's concerned. But on the first amount, I can't, because I lent that 4,000 Rand to the person. Kevin's honest, so I'm using another example here of the 4,000 Rand at first, because I trusted the guy and he gave me stolen goods, but I never specified that there had to be collateral in order to lend the 4,000. It was only for an additional 4,000 I started to get nervous, and therefore the collateral was based on that. Kevin had a question for me.
Okay.
Yeah, you can share it with the group.
He said the guy gave a cloak as collateral.
Yes.
Is that like there's a thing?
I'll see.
Okay. The cloak was given as collateral. Now, in Jewish law, if it's a poor person, you have to give it to him at the end of the evening, like let's say a pillow. Is it the same type of concept when he gives a cloak? Was that cloak actually an item of value?
Okay. The following question is, how can it even really be security for a loan when in fact you have to give it back to the person and they can abscond with it because you can't deprive a poor person of their item of clothing, even if it's based on collateral. So the first thing of it is, if you look at the language of the word cloak, it's generally seen as a luxury item. It's not a coat, it's not a shirt, it's not pants. A cloak is actually worn on top to show nobility. I don't know if you know that. Like, you see, like a vampire, Count Dracula, he wears a cloak. So it shows that it's an extra piece of clothing for fashion. It's not meant for an essential point of view, and that's what's brought to the fore. The second issue is that if it's a person's cloak itself, in order to pay the debt, that would be collateral based on specificity. Meaning, Kevin's question is, if a guy, you would only grant the money to a poor person if he had some form of collateral like his clothing. And so you could keep that as collateral, and that's the basis at which he lent. And if that's the basis, then he would be covered for the first four zuz, according to the remedy of the marketplace, because there was a specific item at which you lent the money in order to give trust. In this case, Kevin, what's happened is the 4,000 Rand was lent, or 4 zuz, or whatever the case may be, before there was any specific collateral given. And that's why there was no remedy of the marketplace in order to fix it up for this person. Because there wasn't an item in order to give the money. It's only when he needed the second money, the guy started to get nervous, and then he bought the cloak as collateral, and on that basis, there's remedy of the marketplace, because only on that laptop lent was another 4,000 Rand granted, or on that coat, another 4 was granted. So that's according to Ravina's opinion. Now, there is a diverting opinion. I think that was an excellent question by Kevin. And the ruling is challenged by Rav Cohen, and he objected to it on the following grounds. He said, listen, perhaps the borrower gave the cloak to Avimi only for these first 4 zuz, which stated above, in the case of one who stole and paid his debt, or one who stole and paid for that which he bought on credit. And as for the last 4 zuz, he trusted him and lent them to him without a pledge, just as he trusted him originally. So in other words, he's coming from a different point of view. Rav Cohen contends that the cloak was given not as a pledge for both loans, but only for the first one. And Avimi, having secured the first loan with a pledge, was then willing to lend another 4 zuz without a pledge. And he had done this as he had done the first time. So consequently, the remedy of the marketplace has no application here at all. Because although the 4 zuz at first were secured on the stolen cloak, the loan was initially made without that pledge, and hence the remedy of the marketplace didn't apply, and certainly didn't apply to the second loan, because that cloak wasn't enough to cover both loans. So then there's deficiency. So the first one was given before collateral, and the second one was to cover the first debt. And therefore, on that basis, there's no remedy of the 4 zuz out of the 8 at all. That's what Rav Cohen is saying. So what's the halacha, Kev? The matter circulated amongst the scholars and eventually reached the attention of Rav Abaye, and Rav Abaye said the law accords with Rabbi Cohen. Okay? So in other words, he approved of Rav Cohen's reasoning that since Avimi trusted in the first time without any pledge, Kev, he presumably trusted in the second time as well, and therefore the cloak was only meant to cover that first debt, and the remedy of the marketplace doesn't protect him either way. Okay, I'll just tell you where we're holding here as far as that's concerned. Now, there is another complicated incident. There's a Nashian who stole a book. Okay, now let me just give you the case. So I don't know much about Israel. Apparently, Rashi says that it's a resident of Narash. Okay. And then it's going to mention a resident of Papuna and a resident of Machoz. I have no idea where these places are. So all we are saying is that you've got 3 different protagonists here. You've got a Nashian who stole a book, and he sold it to a Popaynian for 80 zuz. Okay, so person A stole a book. A thief stole a book, sold it to party B for 80 zuz. party B sold it to a party C, which in this case was the Mechozian, for 120 zuz. Okay, in the end, the thief was discovered. So you got three parties. Thief stole a book, sold it to person B for 80 zuz. Person B stole it to person C for 120 zuz. And then obviously somebody bought it for 120 zuz. So when the thief was discovered, what's the law? So Abaye says the owner of the book should go and give them the last party, party C, 80 zuz only, and collect his book from him. And it's this the last party's job to go and take 40 zuz from the second party. Because let's see, there's three parties. The first party stole it, sold it for 80 zuz. Second party sold it to the third party for 120, and then somebody bought it. So all you've got to do, Kevin, if you're an innocent buyer, is if you're an innocent buyer and I'm a person that's been robbed, why should I give you the 120 zuz? I'll give you 80. And then you go down the chain, and whoever made the 40 zuz as an intermediary, you collect from them. Because although you're innocent, you're less innocent than me, because I'm just the victim that was stolen from. You should have done due diligence in terms of who you bought it from. So now you're the one that has to schlep to the middle party and recover your extra 40 zuz. I, as the purchaser, only have to give you 80. Okay, that's according to the one opinion. That's according to Abaye. Now we've got Rava. You always have Abaye versus Rava. And Rava objected to it on the following grounds: that if the rabbis instituted the remedy of the marketplace for a buyer from a thief, is it not certain that they instituted this law of a buyer to a buyer as well? Meaning that there's different parties. I bought it from, Kevin bought it from me retail, I bought it wholesale, and I bought it wholesale, but I'm a retailer, and Kevin bought it from me as a retailer, as the consumer. And therefore, you have a different law according to Rava, that they instituted the remedy of the marketplace when there are two parties that buy, when a retailer buys from a wholesaler. So Rava said, the owner of the book, just hang on, guys, I just got to pause the share a second. Okay, so Rava's saying that at the end of the day, that Kevin, as the last buyer, doesn't have to go through the previous buyer in order to recover the rest of his money. I actually see it from a buyer's point of view, not a purchaser's point of view, but a buyer as opposed to Rava. Because if I'm the original owner, why must I hand over 120 zuz in order to get my item back? I'm the most innocent compared to the consumer who should have checked that he was buying something legitimate. But Rava said that the owner of the book should go and give the last party 120 zuz and collect his book from him, and the owner of the book should then go and collect 40 zuz from the Popayan, which is the secondary party. It's the wholesaler. Sorry, it's the retailer, and the 80 zuz from the Nashian. So what Rava is saying, which is also quite fair, is I must give Kevin the 420 zuz as the original victim, and I've got to collect 40. I've got to go and collect 40 zuz from the retailer and the 80 zuz from the wholesaler in order to remedy myself. Okay. So in other words, if the rabbi sought to save the first buyer, the one who buys directly from the thief, from having to pursue the thief for his money, they certainly sought to save a subsequent buyer who had no direct dealings with the thief. Because the whole point of the remedy of the marketplace here, according to Rava, is to protect the end user even more. So then he doesn't have to pursue anybody that preceded him. Accordingly, the owner must reimburse the second buyer for his entire 120 zuz, and then the owner must then pursue the first buyer to recoup the 40 zuz the latter profited, and the thief to recoup the 80 zuz that he profited. Okay? Now, guys, I don't want to start a whole Mishnah, a whole nother Gemara, and everything else, because we've got to go to shul now. It's 5 minutes to 6. Guys, are you, Kevin's got a question. Yeah, sure, with pleasure.
Okay, so can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Can you see?
So-
I can move, so you
No,
can
it's
sit.
fine.
Have a seat.
So maybe,
Have a seat.
so okay. Tell me if I'm wrong, eh? In a simple, I was trying to work it out. So in a simple way, so the value of the book was 80 zuz.
Yeah, the original value was
Original
80.
80. So
So
the owner can collect the 80 from the first buyer. The second buyer, that's it. He only needs to collect 80 shekels, not 80
no.
zuz.
There's a Abaye and Rava, so I'll explain it to you.
Okay.
So no, stop. We'll both sit next to each other. See, okay, guys. Hang on. All right. So
Listen, we're not here to judge.
that's the wokest thing you've ever said, and sometimes you sleep during the sleep. Okay, so what we're saying is Abaye's got a different position to Rava. Abaye is saying that the original owner shouldn't have to go through this whole process of dealing with different parties. He's the most innocent of them all. He just had his stuff stolen. And therefore, all I have to do is give what the book was worth back to the consumer, which is Kevin. That's all I have to give. And therefore, Kevin has to go back from to the retailer and recover his 40 zuz, and then back from the thief, who's inverted commas the wholesaler, and get the 80 zuz. Okay, so it's Kevin that's troubled as the consumer, because at the end of the day, there's more responsibility that runs on him than the innocent victim. Now, Rava is coming from a different standpoint to Abaye, and he's saying, look, the remedy of the marketplace is actually to remove inconvenience or loss to the buyer. And therefore, nobody loses their money either way there. As the original victim, what I have to do is give Kevin the full 120 paid for the book as a consumer, and then I've got to go to the retailer and recover my 40 zuz, and from the thief, who was the wholesaler, and get my 80 zuz, so I get it back in a court case. And I'm satisfied that the money I gave to the consumer is being paid back. And I have to go through the schlep, because the whole point, according to Rava, is the remedy of the marketplace is there to protect the buyer from inconvenience. That's the opinion between Rava and Abaye. Do you get it, guys? In a nutshell.
Yeah.
Now, it's not so
Not as good
easy
as
to
you,
just
but
give
I get the gist of it.
it's not so easy to just give that over. Okay, we must go
But
to
at the end of the day, maybe the original owner will take the money and he's happy not to have the book. If he wants the book back, then he can take the 80, as long as he gets the 80 zuz. So that was the original.
yeah, I don't know what the legal mechanism
So it all depends on the original.
it all depends. Yeah, either way, either way, he could get the money from the parties without the book. Kevin's right. It's just sometimes a book that you have might have sentimental value, or it might have no value. You might have outgrown it. So I'm sure there's a money mechanism. All right, and guys, just a little key when you're learning a Gemara is you just have to, you can teach it if you understand it. You don't need a good memory. All right.
No, they agree with you on that. That's a good point. That's the only thing I understood. No, I'm joking. I actually
You'll give
understood.
it
I
over
understood all
next
of it.
session. You'll give it over.
I can give it. I'd rather give it over now, but we don't have time. I'll give it over
Look at
next
this.
session.
Look at this, Gavin. Look at the screen where I'm sitting,
You look like
and it looks like a split screen.
Ah, yes. And now, if I look at my
It's
big
not a
screen, if I look at my
split
small
screen,
one, it looks like
it's not a
that.
split
Yeah. It does look like a
could be,
split.
Gavin.
It does look like it could be, hey?
Yeah.